my boots like memory, not the kind you speak of, but the kind you carry in your bones. It's cold tonight, the kind of cold that doesn't bite, but seeps in the slow testing what you're made of. Streetlights flicker above empty alleys, each one a witness that won't testify, each shadow a silent judge of every step I take. I don't walk these paths for redemption, I walk them because they're mine. And in this city of broken promises, borrowed time, and hollow victories, owning your ground, truly owning it, is the rarest form of courage. I've seen men kneel not from defeat, but from exhaustion, the slow erosion of saying yes when their soul screamed no. They traded their spine for a moment's ease, and now they wander like ghosts in their own skin, haunted by the echo of who they used to be. I chose differently, not out of pride, but because silence taught me more than noise ever could. Every scar I bear is a sentence in a language only the disciplined understand. Every choice I make is a brick in a wall no storm can breach, and unlike those who build with sand and hope for calm weather, I build with iron, knowing the storm is coming and I welcome it. This line I hold isn't drawn in dust or blood, it's woven from every no I spoke when the world demanded surrender, from every truth I capitalized with a smooth away. It doesn't shimmer, it doesn't beg, it simply exists like gravity, like breath, like the weight of a well-worn coat. I don't defend it with words, I defend it by never stepping back. From chaos screams I become quieter, the pressure mounts I become stiller, not because I'm indifferent, well, because real strength isn't reactive, it's chosen again and again. This line I hold isn't drawn in dust or blood, and I will not be the one to break it. They offered me comfort once, soft beds, easy lies, gentle exits wrapped in velvet. I left them the table like untouched whiskey, because real peace isn't found in avoidance, it's forged in the quiet after you've held your ground, in the space between heartbeat and decision, where character is either born or buried. My hands are callous, not from labor, but from gripping truth when it burned like coal. My eyes don't dark, they settle. Cause I make peace with what I see, a world that rewards performance, and I feel a soul who are no presence. I watch empires of ego collapse under their own weight, while men of quiet resolve build kingdoms in the shadows, not with crowns but with consistency. So authority isn't taken, it's earned in the dark, when no applause echoes and no one is watching. If I fall, let it steadied by my unwavering example. The wind cuts through my coat like a blade, but my core remains untouched. Not because I'm hard, but because I know exactly what I will and won't carry. This isn't stubbornness, this is sovereignty. And when the final hour calls, I won't ask if I would love, no fear. I'll ask only, did I hold the line? The answer is already written, and the way I walk through this mud tonight, so deliberate, unbroken, with the weight of every choice pressing down and lifting me up at the same time. Rain taps on the library roof like a secret trying to get in. A soft, insistent rhythm that knows I'm here. The air smells of wet stone, old paper, and the faint metallic tang of rust from the heating pipes below. I stand before the shelf where it rests, third row from the bottom, between two crumbling volumes no one's touched in decades. Bound in black leather, worn smooth at the edges, from years of being carried but never opened. No title, no name, just a single brass clasp, darkened by time and the salt of unshared thoughts. They say it holds everything. The nights I walked alone through Birmingham's industrial veins, the promises I kept when no one would have known if I'd broken them, the faces I turned away from because staying would have meant betraying myself. But I don't open it, not out of fear, out of respect for the life that wrote it, without asking for applause. Some truths aren't meant to be read, they're meant to be there. And every day I walk away from that shelf is another page written in the only way that matters. Not with ink, but with footsteps in the mud. With silence held but noise would have been easier. With hands that stayed steady when never never begged to tremble. I watch men tear open their past like cheap envelopes, spilling regret on through the floor like loose change, and begging a wind or a therapist or a bottle to carry it away. But repeat doesn't vanish, it just finds new places to hide, new pockets to weigh down, new shadows to whisper. I chose a different path, I let my history stay sealed, not because I deny it, but because I hollow it enough to stop rewriting it. This name reminds me that not everything needs resolution. Some things simply need to be carried with dignity. I don't speak of what's inside. I don't defend it in bars or boardrooms or late night calls. I just made sure my steps are worthy of its silence. When others demand confession as currency, I offer consistency instead. When they ask for my story, I give them my presence. The way I hold the door, the way I meet a gaze, the way I leave a room without needing to be remembered. Because real integrity isn't found in explaining yourself. It's found in becoming someone who no longer leads to. This book isn't a prison, and I will not be the one to break its seal. Not for pity, not for praise, not even for peace. They offered me therapy once, a room with soft chairs that swallow sound, walls painted the color of compromise. A promise that if I just opened up, the weight would lift like morning fall. I sat for 10 minutes, listening to the clock tick like a judge, and thanked them and walked back into the rain. Because some burdens are meant to be dropped. They're meant to shape the architecture of your soul. My spine is straight, not despite the load, but because of it. Each fighter throw a testament to choices made in the dark. My eyes are clear, not because I've forgotten, but because I've chosen what to remember. Not the wound, but the will it forged. Not the fall, but the stance I took getting back up. I see men drowned in their own narratives, rewriting their pain into identity until they wore it like a badge. Until they couldn't tell where the story ended and they began. I refuse that fate. My life isn't a tale to be told around a fire. It's a standard to be upheld in the storm. If I leave anything behind, let it be but a diary of feelings scribbled in haste, but a legacy of deeds that echo in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. The library is empty now, just me, the drumming rain, and the book on the shelf. I turn to leave, my coat brushes the door frame. No sound, no drama, no final glance over my shoulder. Because the most powerful stories are the ones we tell. They're the ones we live so fully, so quietly, so consistently that others see. Birmingham wood doesn't just coat your boots, it swallows them whole, sucking at the leather like the city itself is testing your resolve. I kneel in the alley behind the old textile mill, rain mixing with sweat on my hands as I dig. Not for treasure, not for bones. For the compass I buried here 10 years ago, the one that pointed north when everything else spun out of control. It's brass casing, it's toughness now, the glass cracked, but the needle still trembles toward true north, as if they never stop waiting for me to return. I didn't bury it because I lost my way. I buried it because I finally found it. And some truths are too sacred to carry around like a trinket. They need to be planted, left to breathe in the dark, so they don't become crutches, but roots. I watch men clutch their direction like a weapon, waving it in arguments, using it to judge others' paths. But real guidance isn't loud, it's quiet, it's patient. It waits in the mud until you're ready to remember that you already know the way. This compass isn't a tool, it's a mirror. Every time I look at it, I don't see north. I see the man I was when I last held it. Younger, angrier, desperate for certainty in a world built on shifting sand. Now I understand, the needle doesn't point to a place on a map. It points to the center of yourself, and you can only find it where you stop running. I don't need to carry it anymore, but I lead as I come back to out of the version of me who buried it with tears in his eyes, believing he'd never find his way again. He did, not by following the leader, but by becoming it. They told me once that leadership means always knowing the next step. I laughed quietly and walked away, 'cause real leadership isn't about having answers. It's about standing still long enough to hear the question beneath the noise. My hands are stained with mud, not from there, but from building something that won't wash away in the first storm. My silence is an emptiness, it's a space where clarity grows. I see men chase direction like it's a prize to be won, by the maps hiring God's changing course with every whisper of God. But the ones who truly move forward are the ones who learn to trust the quiet pull inside. Even when it leads them through alleys no one else dares enter, if I leave any play behind, let it be not a set of instructions, but the courage to dig your own compass out of the road and trust that it still won't. Even if no one believes you, raise souls to a chisel. Then place it back in the hole. I don't rebury it, I leave it resting on a wet earth, exposed to the sky, the rain, the wind. Let the city see it, let it rust, let it become part of the ground. Because I don't need to hold it to know where I'm headed. The path isn't out there, streets and the way I walk. Deliberate, unhurried, unshaken. And as I rise and turn toward the street, mud heavy on my knees, I feel it. Not in my pocket, but in my chest. The steady, silent pull of a man who no longer needs a compass, because he has become true north. They paved over it in a thick slab of gray concrete, poured right over the soil, as if beauty could be buried like a secret too dangerous to keep. But roots don't die when you cover them, they wait. And tonight, kneeling in the rain beside the old factory wall, I see it, a single green shoot pushing through a hairline crack. Defiant, quiet, utterly alive. I come here every winter, not to tend it, I never touch it, just to witness. Because some forms of strength aren't meant to be managed, they're meant to be honored from a distance. This garden was my grandfather's. He grew roses that smelled like forgiveness, lavender that calmed even the angriest storms in his chest. When they paved it, he didn't protest, he just stopped walking this street. But I know he'd smile if he saw this shoot, not because it broke through, but because it never stopped trying. I spent years building walls around my own soft places, thinking toughness meant sealing everything off. But watching this green bread rise to stone, I realized real strength isn't hardness, it's the refusal to stop rolling. Even when the world pours concrete on your soul, my hands are callous, not from fighting, but from holding space for things no one else can see. Open silence, dignity in defeat, grace in the pride. I don't talk about what grows inside me, I let it show in how I move. Slow, deliberate, unshaken by the weight above. They say cities kill nature, but cities don't kill anything, they just reveal what's truly alive. The rest was always special. I watched men crumble under pressure. They're in a garden choked by fear, regret, the need to be seen. Not the ones who endure, they're the ones who learn to grow downward as well as upward, sending roots deep into the dark where no one can trample them. If I leave anything behind, let it be not a monument, but a crack in someone else's concrete. enough for their own breed to rise. The rain soaks the white coat, cold and clean. I don't pull the chute straight up, I don't shield it. I just sit with it in the quiet till everything's breathing under the same gray sky. Because presence is my highest form of respect. Later I walk back to the city, my boots heavy with mud and memory. No one will know I was here. No one will see the shooting as they kneel. But that's the point. Some truths aren't meant for crowds. They're meant for those willing to get low enough to see what's rising in the cracks. And as I stand to leave, I place my palm flat against the cold concrete, not to blast it, but to feel the pulse beneath. Because life doesn't ask for permission, it simply insists. And a loud insistence in the quiet, relentless push towards the light. I find my own reason to keep growing, even when the world tries to pave me over. Near Clark, in the old train station, hasn't moved since December 17th, 1923. Its hands frozen at 11:59 p.m., not quite midnight, not quite yesterday, not yet tomorrow. I stand beneath it every night, watching pigeons nest in his gears, or listening to the sirens where ticks used to live. They say it broke during the great strike, from time itself seemed to hold its breath. But I know better, it didn't break, it chose to stop. Because some moments are too sacred to be measured. Some truths are too vast to fit inside minutes and hours. That night, the night it stopped, was the last time my father spoke to me. Not with words, but with a look across the crowded platform. His eyes saying everything he never could. You'll be alright, you already are. And in that suspended second, time didn't fail, it fulfilled its purpose. I don't believe in rushing anymore. I watch men chase deadlines like starvation, only to arrive high to wipe a breath, having missed the only thing worth rhyming for: presence. My life isn't ruled by hands on a God is guided by death. to staying still while the world spins itself busy, while others panic about running out of time. I remember the clock at midnight, how it taught me that real power isn't in moving fast, but in knowing when to stop completely. They offered me a platter once, leather-bound golden balls, still was empty boxes waiting to be filled. I left it on the bench beneath the clock, because my days are containers for me past. There's spaces to be inhabited. My silence isn't wasted time. It's the soil where clouded grows. My stillness isn't laziness. It's reverence for the moment that can't be scheduled. I've seen men die 1,000 deaths, trying to outrun their past to catch their future. But the ones who surely live, they're the ones who learn to dwell in the eternal now, where regret and anxiety have no jurisdiction. If I leave anything behind, let it be not a timeline of achievements, but a single pause second, wide enough for someone else to catch their breath, deep enough for them to remember that they are already home. Tonight the station is empty, just me, the pigeons, and the frozen head. Cold stone beds, hands in my coat pockets, breathing in rhythm with the silence. Because some things aren't broken just because they don't move. Some things are complete exactly as they are. And as the real midnight approaches, the one the sky keeps, not the clock. I feel it, not the pressure of time passing, with the peace of time on it. The clock didn't stop because it failed, it stopped because it succeeded. And in that frozen moment, I learned the most important truth of all. You don't need more time, you just need to be fully in the time you have. So I stand, now waiting for the hands to move, but honoring the stillness that taught me how to It stands at the end of an alley, no map includes. Weathered oak, iron hinges rusted shut by decades of rain. No handle, no keyhole, no sign above its frame. Just wood, silence, and the faint scent of wet moss in the cracks. They say it leads nowhere. It has been sealed since the factory closed in 19. But I know better. They've seen it open, not with force, not with noise. But when someone stands before it long enough to stop wanting to get through, and starts wondering why they need it to, that's when the hinges sigh, a wood breeze and the door swings inward. Not to let you in, but to remind you, you were never locked out. You were just waiting for permission that was always yours. I don't knock anymore, I don't push, I simply stand. Because real access isn't granted, it's claimed in stillness. I've watched men batter down doors that weren't theirs, only to find empty rooms and echoes of their own hunger. But the ones who find what they truly see, they're the ones who learn to wait until the door recognizes them. My presence here isn't demand, it's devotion, a daily act of faith that's some thresholds. Surrender to your own worthiness. They offered me a key was brass ornate, wrapped in velvet. Said it would open any door in the city. I left it on the wet cobblestone, because the only door that matters doesn't care about keys, it cares about consistency, about showing up day after day even when it stays closed. My silence before it isn't defeat, it's dialogue. My patience is in passivity. It's power refined by time. I've seen men build ladders to windows while ignoring the door wide open behind them. Tread not by walls, but by the belief that entry must be undue spectacle. It asks for presence. If I leave anything behind, let it be not a map of secret passages, but the quiet certainty that the door was never locked, only waiting for you to remember. You already belong on the other side. Tonight the alley is empty. Rain drips from the fire escape above, each drop for metronome for the waiting. I don't check my watch, I won't pace. I lean against the opposite wall, hands in my coat pockets, breathing with the rhythm of the city's in and pulse. And then, not with a creak or with a sigh, not enough to enter, just enough to say I see you. I don't step forward, I bow my head slightly, not in submission, but in gratitude. Because the greatest freedom isn't walking through doors, knowing you never needed one to begin with. And as I turn to leave, the door closes softly behind me, not sealing me out, but sealing the truth inside. enough to be recognized by your own reflection in those. On the windowsill of my study, crystal cut thin as regret, filled to the brim with amber whiskey, untouched for 7 winters. No dust gathers on its rim, no fingerprints blur its surface. I polish it every Sunday, not out of ritual, but out of respect for what it represents. The power of refusal. They say strength is in endurance, in bearing pain, and swallowing fire, and drinking what's poor. But I've learned the deeper truth. Real strength is in the hand that stays still, the throat that doesn't burn, the choice to leave something whole. Even when the world expects you to consume it, this glass isn't empty because I lack thirst. It's full because I chose a different kind of nourishment. Silence over numbness, clarity over escape, presence over oblivion. I watch men drown their demons in bottles, only to wake up with wetter ghosts. They mistake consumption for courage, as a swallowing poison makes you brave. But bravery isn't in how much you can take, it's to knowing what you want. Our sobriety is a purity, it's precision, a daily act of saying, I will not trade my clarity for a moment's ease. The whiskey stays because my mind must stay sharper, my hands must stay steadier, my word must stay cleaner than any liquid could ever be. They offered me a drink last night at a table full of men who measure worth in shots and stories. I held the glass, felt its weight, smelled the oak and smoke rising like old temptations. Then I set it down untouched. I would cry with peace. Because real authority isn't proven in indulgence, it's cruel and endless strings. My silence of that table wasn't weakness, it was sovereignty. I've seen empires of ego built on just one law, only to crumble into hangovers and hollow promises. But the lies that endure, they're built on boundaries honored in private, on nights spent alone with a full glass and a clearer conscience. If I leave anything behind, Let it be not a legacy of excess, but a single untouched glass. Proof that some victories are won, not by taking, but by leaving something perfectly whole. Tonight moonlight catches the whiskey's edge, turning it to liquid gold. Never pour it out, I don't hide it, I let it sit. A quiet monument to the choices no one saw me make. Because the most powerful statements aren't shouted, they're held. And as I turn on the lamp, leaving the room in soft shadow, the glass glows faintly on the sill, not as a temptation, but as a testament. I am full enough without it. Some men dream to forget who they are. I leave a handful to remember, and in that refusal, in that tie, I'm wavering on the deepest kind of freedom, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone, not even to the ghost in the bottle. It rests in the bottom drawer of my desk, folded once, sealed with black wax. No name on the envelope, no stamp, no address, just paper, ink, and the weight of words I chose not to release. I wrote it on a night when the wind howled like a wounded animal, when every nerve begged for catharsis, when truth felt like a blade too sharp to sheathe. But I didn't send it, not because I lacked courage, but because I honored something deeper than relief. Some words aren't meant to be delivered, they're meant to be held, like embers that warm you from within without burning the world down. I've watched men hurl their truths like stones, shattering windows, wounding hearts, then calling it honesty. But real integrity isn't in speaking your mind, it's in knowing which truths belong to you alone. This letter isn't silence out of fear, it's silence out of respect for for me, for the space between us. It doesn't need to be filled with noise to be sacred. My hand didn't shake when I sealed it. It's steady. Because true strength isn't in unloading your burden on the others, it's in carrying it with grace even when it aches. I don't keep it to punish myself, I keep it as truth that I can hold complexity without collapsing, that I can feel deeply without demanding resolution. Did some wounds heal now through exposure? But do quiet containment. They asked me once why I never confronted her. A man who wronged me, but wanted to let her names in careful script. I just poured 2 glasses of water, handed him one. Just said nothing. Because real power isn't in making others understand you. It's in understanding yourself so completely that their ignorance no longer wounds you. Silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness refined by time. I've seen lives ruined by necessary truths. Words spoken in the name of clarity that left only rubble in their way. But the relationships that endure, they're built on what's left unsaid, on the mercy of withholding, on the wisdom of knowing that not every fire needs feeding. If I leave anything behind, let it be like a trail of scorched oak, but a single sealed envelope. Proof that sometimes the most loving act is to burn your words in private. So others don't have to breathe the smoke. So now that I open the drawer, not to read it, just to feel its presence, its quiet monument to restraint. The wax is still intact, the paper hasn't yellowed, it waits, not as a threat, but as a testament. And I felt it all, and I chose peace anyway. I close the drawer softly, no time or no sigh, just a click of wood meeting wood. The sound so small, yet louder than any accusation never was. Because the beat is truth, I'm shouted into the wind. They're folded, sealed, and carried in a packet. Closest to the not as weapons, but as weights that keep you grounded. And the world jaws to lift you into chaos. And at that choice, to speak only to myself. I found a freedom no audience could ever give. The freedom of being whole without needing to be understood. He stands at the edge of the Birmingham Canal at dawn, black coat gleaming with river mist, mane tangled by wind, not by comb, reins trailing in the mud like forgotten promises. No saddle, no bridle, no name carved in leather, just his muscle breath and the quiet intelligence in his eyes that says he's been free longer than he was ever owned. I don't approach him, I watch from the bridge, hands in my coat pockets, letting the cold seep into my bones until I'm still enough to be seen. They say a horse without a rider is wasted potential, a force without direction, power without purpose. But I've learned the deeper truth. Real freedom isn't in being written well, it's in choosing when to carry and when to walk alone. This horse isn't lost, he's complete. His hooves know the earth better than any map, his instincts sharper than any command. He doesn't need a voice behind him to know which way the wind is blowing. I watch men break spirits to make them obedient, call any training, call any love. But true partnership is a control disguised as care. It's mutual respect between two sovereign beings. My solitaire isn't fear of the wild, it's reverence for it. Because some souls are meant to be tamed, they're meant to remind us what it looks like to move through the wall without asking permission. They offered me a stable once, warm, dry, with polished tack and a nameplate on the stall. I declined, because real belonging isn't found in being claimed, it's found in being trusted to roam and it's born of your own accord. My solitude isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty. My independence isn't rejection, it's integrity. The quiet certainty that I am enough, exactly as I am, with or without someone on my back. I've seen love's been trying to mount every beautiful thing, to own it, direct it, prove it belongs to them. But the moments that truly transform us, they come when we stop trying to ride and start learning to walk beside. If I leave anything behind, let it be not a legacy of conquest, but the image of a black horse at dawn, free, unburdened, utterly himself. Until now he chooses to stop, to pace, to rest, to simply be. And in that choice, to exist without solving another's desire. He becomes more than an animal, he becomes a mirror. So I bow my head slightly, not in submission, but in gratitude, to show me that true strength isn't in carrying others, it's in knowing when to carry only yourself. And that freedom just before my boots touch the ground. Not behind me, not beside me, but ahead, as if it already knows where I'm going before I've decided to take the step. In the gaslight of Birmingham's back streets, it stretches long and lean, cutting through fog like a blade made of absence. I don't fear it, I follow it, because God's own voices are signs. They're the shape of your own certainty, cast forward by the light you carry within. This shadow isn't lack, it's prophecy, yeah. It doesn't mimic my steps, it leads them, calm in a path through uncertainty, with the quiet confidence of a man who has already lived the moment and retired to walk it again. I've watched men chase their shadows like ghosts, trying to outrun regret or catch a version of themselves that no longer exists. But I've learned your shadow isn't your past, it's your potential. The outline of who you become when you stop hesitating and start moving with intent. Isn't doubt, it's alignment. The deep knowing that every footfall is already written in the shape ahead of me. They told me once to find myself, I left quietly and kept walking, because I'm not lost, I'm being led, not by fate, not by fortune, but by the unwavering silhouette of the man I've chosen to be. My shadow doesn't wait for permission, it assumes I'll follow, and that assumption, it teaches me trust. Trust in the path, trust in the pace, trust in the quiet voice that says this way. Not chasing it, not fleeing it. but meeting it in the middle. With open hands and steady eyes. To me, the fog rolls in off the canal. Swallowing streetlights, softening their chest. But my shadow remains sharp. A black cutout against the gray. Moving with purpose, never waver. And I don't want to catch it. I match its pace. He sits on a stone windowsill of the old watchtower, brass base tarnished by salt and time, glass chimney smudged with fingerprints from another era, wick dry or long gone, yet still upright, still whole. Even as thunder splits the sky above, the storm rages, rain lashes the panes, wind howls through broken shutters, lightning flashes like truth trying to be seen. But the lamp stays dark, not because it can't burn, because it chooses not to. They say light is duty, that in darkness you must shine. But I've learned quite a truth: some lamps aren't meant to illuminate the world. They're meant to hold the space for light to return on its own terms. This lamp isn't broken, it's waiting, and in its stillness it teaches me that real presence isn't performance, it's the courage to remain unlit. Man, every instinct screams to prove you're alive. I don't light it out of fear, I won't hide it out of shame. I honor it, my labyrinth rest, by trusting that its purpose isn't tied to flame, but to faith. Faith that when the pressure. But for men already less, I watch men burn themselves to embers, trying to be seen in the star, only to vanish when the crowd's parted. But the ones who endure are the ones who learn to hold their light in reserve, not as denial, but as devotion to a deeper rhythm. They offer me a matchless night. Just one spark, they set for comfort, for hope. I held it in my palm until it went cold, because real strength isn't in constant radiance. It's in knowing when to conserve your fire for the hour that truly needs on. My thought, this is an absence, this preparation. My silence is an emptiness. It's the space where true light is born. Not loud, not adjusted, but calm deliberate. And early suspicion. I've seen false beacons flare and fade, leaving holy smoke and longing in their wake. But the lamps that guide generations, they're the ones that know how to wait, how to stand through hurricanes unlit, and still be ready when dawn finally asks, are you back? If I leave anything behind, let it be not a blaze that blinds us, but a single unlit lamp. Proof that sometimes the greatest service is to hold your light quietly, so others can find their own. Tonight the storm reaches its peak, rains on the roof like 1,000 fists. I sit beside the lamp, not touching it, just breathing in the sand of wet stone and old grass. Don't need to prove it works, its existence is enough, because the most powerful light isn't the one that fights the dark. It's the one that trusts the dark will land on its own. And as the stars hit the morning bleeds through the clouds, the lamp remains unlit, but I see it clearly now, not by its flame, but by its shape against the coming day. Some are called to burn, I am called to be. And in that bed, steady, silent, unshaken, I'll become a kind of light that doesn't need to shine to be known. It hangs on the iron hook just inside the threshold. slightly damp from last night's rain. Sleeves emptied but still shaped by the arms that wore them. Collar turned up against the wind. No one else felt, no one's home. The house is quiet, no footsteps, no voice, no kettle singing. But the code remains not forgotten, left on purpose, because some presences are measured in breath or sound. They're held in the space between absence and return. I watch men vanish without a trace, leaving only silence and unanswered questions. But this coat, it says I'll be back. Not as a promise shouted, but as a quiet certainty woven into woolen thread. Its weight on the hook is a vow. I haven't abandoned this place, I'm just tending to what must be done outside. They say leadership means always being seen, always at the table, always in the room, always speaking. But I've learned to be but true. Real authority isn't in constant visibility. It's in the trust you leave behind and you step away. This code isn't abandonment, it's continuity. It's empty sleeves on walls, they're an invitation. Hold the space, I'm still part of it. Absence isn't neglect, stewardship, knowing when to step out, so others can find their footing home. They asked me once why I don't stay longer, why I leave meetings early, why I walk a lonely dusk, why I disappear for days with no explanation. I just pointed to the code on the hook. Cause real presence isn't about occupying space, it's about honoring it enough to let it breathe. My silence isn't withdrawal, it's cultivation. My distance isn't indifference, it's faith. In the room, in the people, in the work, it continues even when I'm not there to witness it. I've seen empires crumble under leaders who couldn't let go, who mistook control for care. Presence of power, but the legacies that endure, they're built by those who know how to hang their coat and walk out the door. If I leave anything behind, let it be not a chrome, but a simple code on the heart. Proof that true belonging doesn't require constant performance, only consistent return. Tonight the house is dark, rain taps the roof like a familiar rhythm. I stand in the doorway, not entering, not leaving, just watching the clothes sway slightly from a draft I can't feel. It doesn't need to validate its place, it simply holds it. Cause the most powerful statements are made in grand entrances. They're made in the quiet assurance that something left behind. It says, I am part of this, and I will come come back. I don't touch it, I don't adjust it, I just close the door softly behind me, leaving it hanging. Not as a ghost, but as a guardian. And as I walk into the wet street, cold collar turned up against the wind, I carry the certainty that my absence is not erasure, it's echo. So long remembered for their lies, I choose to be remembered for the space I left and the way I return to feel it. When I have a humanity began to war for me, because real belonging isn't vain. It's coming back again and again. With clean hands and a quiet heart,